NFL wildcard weekend in the rearview mirror, we've gone from 12 teams to 8 teams, and all 8 teams will be in action for the Divisional Weekend. The Atlanta Falcons and Philadelphia Eagles get things underway on Saturday at 4:35 p.m. Eastern Time on January 13th at Lincoln Financial Field. The Falcons are favored by 3 points on the road over the NFC East champion Eagles. Obviously, this line looks a lot different without Carson Wentz at the helm for the Eagles. But we've also seen a bit of an adjustment on how good Atlanta looked in the win over the Los Angeles Rams. The total opened at 43.5 points, but has already dropped 2.5 points. With the playoff win and cover, the Falcons are sitting at 11-6 straight up and 8-9 against the spread. The game against the Rams comfortably stayed under the total, so Atlanta is now 12-5 to the under on the year. It is the playoffs, so motivations are higher and situational spots are less strenuous. But the Falcons are playing in Philadelphia after playing in Los Angeles last week and will be playing their 4th game on the road in 5 weeks. It is interesting that the Falcons seemed to overwhelm the Rams in the first half, as Los Angeles came off of a pseudo-bye week after resting everybody against the 49ers. The Falcons looked undervalued going into Los Angeles, and things played out that way. The Falcons owned the time of possession by holding the ball for over 37.5 minutes, but the Falcons only managed 4.5 yards per play with 39 rushing attempts and 30 passing attempts. The big key is that Atlanta didn't turn the football over and the Rams lost 2 fumbles. The Falcons scored 10 points off of those 2 LA turnovers. Atlanta's lackluster box score doesn't seem to be getting enough play this week. The Falcons were tied for 3rd with 5.9 yards per play during the regular season. They stayed true to their 50% success rate in the red zone with 2 scores on 4 trips, but really didn't move the ball very effectively last week. Atlanta had just 3.2 yards per carry and only 10.4 yards per reception. Atlanta will need a better offensive showing against Philadelphia to avoid an upset. Devonta Freeman had 22 of his 66 yards on 1 of his 18 carries. Tevin Coleman didn't have a run longer than 7 yards. Against an Eagles defense that only allowed 3.8 yards per carry, the tough sledding may not get any easier. Don't read too much into how the Falcons allowed 5.6 yards per play. The Rams ran 61 offensive plays and 45 were passes, as they trailed most of the game. The Rams had 7.2 yards per carry on their 16 attempts, which is obviously a red flag for the Falcons defense. But the Falcons buckled down in the red zone, which has been a key for them this season. Atlanta ranked 5th in red zone defense at 45.8% and held the Rams to 1 touchdown on 4 trips inside the 20. The defense held Jared Goff to 24 of 45 passing, and Dan Quinn seems to outcoach Sean McVay, which is no easy feat. The Falcons defense had 3 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, and 10 pass breakups, so the secondary really came through. With more RPOs coming from Nick Foles, who is a more mobile quarterback, we'll have to see how the Eagles fare. The Eagles idle last week after getting shut out by Dallas in Week 17 enter the playoffs at 13-3 straight up and 10-6 against the number. The game is comfortably flown under the total in each of the last 2 Nick Foles starts, so the Eagles are 8-8 to the over on the season. Both bye-week teams won on Saturday last year, but both lost on Sunday in the playoffs, so we'll have to see if the Eagles are ready coming out of the break. Over the last 4 years, all 8 Super Bowl participants have enjoyed that wildcard weekend bye, which obviously means that those teams have won in this round. Second-year head coach Doug Peterson better not take his foot off the gas at any point during this game. Peterson, the protege of Andy Reid, likely watched as his former mentor got way too conservative way too early, and the Chiefs ended up losing to the Titans while blowing an 18-point lead. The Eagles had 5.5 yards per play this season, but it is very difficult to look at the full season statistics given that most of them incorporate the play of Carson Wentz. The Eagles only had 341 yards and 5.2 yards per play in the first Nick Foles start after Wentz suffered a torn ACL. Against the Raiders, the Eagles had 216 yards and just 3.5 yards per play. In the regular season finale against the Cowboys, the Eagles watched as Foles went 4 of 11 and exited the game in favor of backup Nate Sudfeld. It certainly wasn't a great look with Foles at the helm. With extra time to prepare Foles, the hope would be that signs of growth are present, but we won't know until the Eagles take their first possession. Betting into that kind of unknown at this stage of the game is risky. What we do know is that Philadelphia's defense should be ready to go. Philadelphia gave up more than 500 yards to the Giants, but wrapped up their regular season by holding the Raiders to 274 yards and 4.3 yards per play, and the Cowboys only had 4.8 yards per play and 301 total. The Eagles were projected to be around a pick'em per the look-ahead lines, but the Falcons are a clear favorite in this game now. Given the ineptitude of the offense late in the year under Foles, it means that the defense will really have to come to play. The Eagles allowed just 5 yards per play this season and had the 5th best adjusted net yards per pass attempt against. What helps the Eagles is that Jim Schwartz gets pressure with his front four and the secondary can worry about the coverage. That's why the Eagles only allowed 10.7 yards per catch, which ranked tied for 7th. Until we see something different from Nick Foles, we have to assume that the Philadelphia offense will keep struggling. The Falcons are in a bit of a tough spot with playoff games on opposite coasts, but this is the playoffs, so those spots don't have nearly as much meaning. The Falcons' defense had a good plan for the Rams and executed well. The offense could be better, and that will be the focus for Steve Sarkisian. Dan Quinn and Marquand Manuel had a great game plan for a novice head coach, and Doug Peterson falls into that category as well. The total of 41 is certainly low, especially in light of the betting action that has knocked off a bit of value, but a low-scoring affair also makes a lot of sense in this game. Our pick and prediction will be for the Atlanta Falcons at -3 and under 41 points. For our pick and prediction on this game and every other game this week, and a wealth of free stats and information, check out bangthebook.com.